Now let's take a look at our final word for today, which I think is a very useful word, and I think we've talked about it before, but it's a good idea to review these things sometimes, especially good words, important words like this. Cram. Pachu, do you know that word? Cram.
But cram has also meaning like rote learning or someone when exam comes or at the end of the before the exam they
That's true.
cram
That's true.
all things.
That's true. But what is the meaning of cram?
But here the meaning is different. It
But
means
see, I disagree with you. I don't think it's different. But tell me, what does it mean here?
means we see a lot of things in one place but in unorganized way,
That well,
disorganized way.
well, it is kind of disorganized. That's true. But when you cram for a test, that's usually studying 1 day or 2 days before. You try to fit a lot of information in a short period of time. You try to fit a lot of information in your little brain. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's kind. It does. I think it means the same thing. Do you disagree?
uh, no.
I just want to remind you. I'm going to show you a picture. I just want to remind you of the visualization of cram. So here's cramming a lot
Why?
of things into a small space. What?
No. Yes, I remember that figure, that
Yeah, or this, like
picture.
cramming a lot of people into a space that's not big enough. If
Yes.
you say I'm cramming for an exam, that means I think you have very short period of time, maybe 1 or 2 days, and you have a lot of
Yeah.
information you have to fit into that short period. Or you have a lot of
Yeah.
information that you have to remember in your head. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes. Yes, I got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's why I think that in both cases it pretty much means the same thing. Mohammed, have you seen
Yes.
that word before? Cram?
Yes, like you said, it has abstract meaning, like exam, and
Hmm.
literal meaning,
Yeah,
like fitting clothes in a small space.
that's true. I guess you could think of it as kind of abstract and literal. Like physically, you try to place physically objects in a small area, but also it could be abstract. You don't touch ideas, so ideas are abstract. And your brain, even though there's a physical representation of it, maybe it's bigger or smaller than what's actually here. So it could be abstract. Mohammed, can you read the first four words?
They had to cram,
Okay. What is the most important word in that phrase?
cram,
Okay. Cram. 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 Can you
cram,
say it extra long? Cram.
cram.
How will you say they had to cram if cram is the most important word? How does that sound?
They had a cram.
They had to cram. They had to cram.
They had to cram.
They had to cram.
Can we connect D and T in one letter? Like
They
hada?
had to. Yes, you could. Probably you would. Had to, had to, because T and D are almost the same sound. The difference is the uh, you push out the D or the T, and you swallow the D. But let's now that you ask, let's look at this for a moment, okay? This is interesting. Now that you mention this, this is a really interesting thing. Can you see the two words that I have written up on the screen?
Hat and head.
Okay. Now, there's very little difference between the T and the D. What is the difference?
Pushing air.
Okay,
Hat.
which one pushes air? Number one or number two? Which one pushes the air out?
One.
Okay. So how and what about number two? What happens to the air in number two?
Stop it.
It goes down. It
Stop.
it goes down.
Yes.
So when you say hat, the air comes out. But when you say had, the air goes down. Say number one.
Had.
Say number two.
Had.
Okay. Say number one again.
Had.
Okay. Say number two.
Had.
Okay. But there's something happens to the vowel because of this. It's the same sound. It's the same letter, hat and had physically, except the direction of the air, right? But what happens to number two because it's a word that it's a sound that you swallow?
Uh, uh, had become shorter.
No longer, longer.
Had. Okay.
All right. So number one, listen to the length. Listen to the duration of the vowel sound for number one. Hat, hat.
Yes.
Here's number two. Had.
Had. Had.
Mm-hmm. Because when you have the letters that you swallow, the vowel becomes longer. So number one is hat, and number two is had.
Had. Had.
Pachu, can you say number one?
Is a hat.
How would you say number two?
Is a had.
That's right. So, Mohammed, you're saying, oh, can we combine the D and the T? Yes. But how must you pronounce the vowel sound? Is it had to or had to?
Had. Had to.
Yes, because even though you're not really pronouncing the D, it's still there. And that means that you have to pronounce the A in a very long way. Had to. Had to.
Had to.
Not had to. Had to.
Had to.
Maya says it sounds like there's a diphthong in the word cram. Well, Maya, if I say that, my pronunciation is American, North American. So uh, the way that this would sound in the UK or Australia might be different. But listen, if I say cram very slowly, listen to all of the sounds. Cram, cram. The three sounds. Cram, cram, cram. Okay, so we have they had to cram. Can you say that, Muhammad? They had to cram.
They had to cram.
Okay, they had to cram. Say it again.
They had. They had to cram.
Pachu, can you say that? They had to cram.
They had to cram.
Okay, actually, I'm going to make this had big. It's not really a focus word, but just to remind you that it must be long. The duration of that must be long. They had to cram.
They had to cram.
Pachu, can you say the next two words?
Their clothes.
Okay, but you never pronounce the th. It's just close. There's no th sound.
Okay. Their clothes.
Just like that. hmm So in that phrase, their clothes. What do you suppose is the important word?
Uh, clothes.
Clothes. hmm So now we're developing our big, small, big, small, big, small rhythm. They had to cram their clothes.
They had to cram their clothes.
Okay. Can you say that, Mohammed? They had to cram their clothes.
They had to. They had to cram their clothes.
Okay. Mohammed, don't try to pronounce the th in that word. It's just close, like close the door. It sounds exactly the same.
Okay. They had to cram their clothes.
don't say close like close the door. Don't try to pronounce the th.
Close. Only close.
Close, close,
Close.
close. Like close. Can you say
Close.
close the door? Close the door like that.
Close the door.
No,
Close the door.
don't ignore the th. Don't try to pronounce the th. It's just close.
Close.
I'm just going to write it so you can see it. Uh, Maybe it's too abstract if we just talk about it. So let me show you. Can you see the two words that I have written up on the screen?
Close and close.
No, no, no. They're pronounced exactly the same. Close and close.
Close and close.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same. There's no th sound, okay? It's just close. They had to
They had to cram.
go ahead.
They had to cram their clothes.
That's right. They had to cram their clothes. They had to cram their clothes. What are the final four words in that phrase, Mohammed?
Into the small suitcase.
Okay. What would be the important word in that phrase?
Small.
Yeah. If you have an adjective, it would probably be the adjective. Okay. All right. So small suitcase. Small suitcase.
Small suitcase.
Into the small suitcase.
Into the small suitcase.
They had to cram their clothes into the small suitcase.
They had to cram their clothes into the small suitcase.
Okay. Pachu, can you say the entire phrase?
They had to cram their clothes into the small suitcase.
They had to cram their clothes into the small suitcase.
They had to cram their clothes into the small suitcase.
Okay, great. Mohammed, how many phrases can we divide this sentence into?
Uh, is singular of clothes is pronounced the same?
Well, if you pronounce the singular of clothes, which is cloth, well, actually, cloth is uncountable. There is no singular. There's no singular for that. Clothes is, let's see, it's a plural word, but there's no clothe. There's no the sing. You know what the singular of clothes is? Clothing, which is uncountable, which is one piece of clothing. There's no singular. You never have to worry about the singular. You can talk about clothing and then you can count pieces of clothing. You could say one piece of clothing, two pieces of clothing, but there's no in contemporary English. I don't think that I can't think of any. Wait, let's see. I'm going to now. Now you're making me ask Chat GPT. Is there a singular for clothes? I don't think so. I would be very surprised. Yeah, no, there is no singular for clothes. So you don't have to worry about it. If you wanted to
Okay,
talk about one piece, you have to count by pieces. One piece of clothing, two pieces of clothing. Okay.
okay.
So, how many phrases can you divide this sentence into?
Two.
What are the two?
First one
Go ahead.
will end at close.
Clothes. Okay. All right. Now, in that first phrase, they had to cram their clothes. How would you like to sound? Friendly and nice or serious?
And
Friendly? Okay. So that means because when you use a friendly tone, we're going to finish our phrase low because you normally will finish a phrase low, but we'll have to add a high tone to it to sound a little bit nicer, a little bit friendlier. Clothes.
clothes,
Close. Close. High, low. Close.
clothes,
Okay.
clothes.
All right.
They they had to cram their
Okay. And
clothes.
close. Yeah, don't pronounce the TH. So, and we'll start the phrase high because phrases normally start high and go low. It's just that we're adding a little extra high at the end. They had to cram their
Uh,
clothes. Go ahead.
they had to cram their clothes.
Don't pronounce the TH. Just pronounce clothes.
They had to cram their clothes.
That's good. Yeah, just like that. Pachu, can you say that phrase?
They had to cram their clothes.
Okay. They had to they had to cram their clothes.
They had to cram their clothes
That's good. Okay. Now the final phrase, Pachu. What is the final phrase?
into the small suitcase.
Okay. And how do you want to sound? Do you want to sound nice and friendly or do you want to sound serious?
Uh, Serious.
Serious? Okay. So that
Yeah.
means we'll just finish low. We won't use any high tones at the end. We'll just make it low. Whoops. So I'll make this blue to represent Muhammad. This is an abstract representation of low, making it blue. By the way, these these colors are like abstract representations of tone for us. Okay, so we have into the small suitcase.
Into the small suitcase.
Into the small suitcase.
Into the small
Hmm.
suitcase.
Can you say that, Muhammad? Into the small suitcase.
Into the small suitcase.
They had to cram their clothes into the small suitcase.
They had to cram their clothes. They had to cram their clothes into the small suitcase.
Okay, is it the small suitcase or the small suitcase?
The,
The. Say it again.
they had to cram their clothes into the small suitcase.
Okay, Pachu, can you say the entire phrase?
They had to cram their clothes into the small suitcase.
Okay, they had to cram their clothes into the small suitcase.
They had to cram their clothes into the small suitcase.
Okay, Pachu, can you make a what they cram clothes into question?
Why did they have to cram their clothes?
Forget about have to. Let's just do what cram into.
What did they cram into?
Okay, what did they cram their clothes into?
What did they cram their clothes into?
Okay, what is your most important word in that question?
So what?
What? How will you say what plus did plus they?
What did they?
What did they?
What did they?
What did they? So make what very important, make it bigger. What did they?
What did they?
What
What
did
did they?
they cram?
What did they cram?
What did they cram their clothes into?
What did they cram their clothes into?
Say it again.
What did they cram their clothes into?
Mohammed, can you make that question? What did they cram their clothes into?
What did they have to cram their clothes into?
Forget about had to. Let's just do cram. What did they cram their clothes into?
What did they cram the clothes into?
What is the answer, Mohammed?
They had to cram their clothes into the small suitcase.
Okay. They had to cram their clothes into the small suitcase. Try to focus on those big words instead, and not pay so much attention to the little words. Try again.
They had to cram their clothes into the small suitcase.
Uh huh. Pachu, what do they have to cram their clothes into?
They had to cram their clothes into this small suitcase.
All right. Okay. Well, I think that we have to finish here for today,
Yeah,
and
thank you, sir.
I hope to be back in about 8 hours to do another one, but we'll see what happens. I think I will. I'm pretty sure I will today, but we'll see. All right. Well, thank you for participating. Thank you, everybody, for your questions and your comments, and I hope that you join us again when we continue practicing. And thank you, Muhammad and Pachu, for participating. Goodbye.
Mm,
Thank you.
bye bye.